Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours. At the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, unforgettable, historical, educational.
Welcome to Whispers on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It's the new year. I'm your host today, Nick Queen, with the lovely Lola Miller, and guest host Evan Drawn. And somewhere in an airport in the America's South, Jordan is braving the TSA, I guess. Mm-hmm. Do we know what he's doing exactly? Has he been arrested yet?
Jordan? I haven't been arrested yet.
Yet.
It's
going to happen.
I have a lot of wired devices, and I have to walk through the airport security. I just want to see, test Obama's new airport security thing, I guess.
Oh, you are sometimes, you know what, I can't even begin.
This is a good time. This is a good time to open my gift I sent you. That I told you not to open until today. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's going to be.
I'm not going to run in there and say bomb. Don't worry.
Thank you for that. Just don't leave your bag sitting anywhere. Don't give anybody a hard time. Don't kick the dog in the teeth.
I wonder what'll happen if I yell it in Big Latin though.
That sounds too much like Farsi. Don't do it.
Don't try to set your underwear on fire.
You are wearing underwear?
Probably not.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. What's the day of the week?
It is a Monday.
I don't know. I gotta check.
Oh boy, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in and say Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope everybody had a good Christmas and New Year, and they didn't get too wasted.
Where airport are you at?
Myrtle Beach.
Oh, okay. I figured it was going to be Myrtle Beach.
What's the weather like down there, Jordan?
It is 27 degrees out there.
Are you serious?
I know, right? Be jealous. What is it there?
Oh, it's
17.
Yeah, it's pretty cold. Pretty cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's no snow here, so it works.
I don't know. You said 27. That's what you said?
Yeah.
That's just cold. Snow or no snow, that's just cold.
You should have. Did you take the plunge like we were telling you to do yesterday?
No.
I told you to do the polar bear plunge into the Atlantic Ocean.
Plunge, but I didn't have the guts to do it.
Why? The water would have been warm. Just stayed in the water.
I didn't want icicles clinging into my back hair.
Ooh. There's an image I don't need.
Wow. You had to go there.
Well, somebody has to go there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're leaving. You'll be here. You'll be back in Pittsburgh. Where guess is where you're landing. About what time tonight?
About 11:30 tonight. So.
Well, enjoy the flight.
I'll be there just in time to check the archived show online.
If you are arrested, you get one phone call. Make sure it's here so we can laugh at you.
Oh, and raise bail money.
Yeah, and start a telethon on the air. Actually, right now, Jordan, it is snowing like crazy here. I already know there's a 2-hour delay for Ohio County schools. Welcome home.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know how many times in the winter I flew home to a blizzard. So, join the club.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
You'll have fun. You did.
Snowman outside the airport.
Yeah. Do you want to do your announcement real quick on the music?
Okay. Yeah. If you remember our last show of last year, which was 2 weeks ago, I said that we're going to start using your music out there as bumper music,
right?
For in and out of commercials. So make sure you send them in. Whispers1600. That's whispers1600 @gmail.com. And that way we can put all your music into a kind of like a music bank, and we can start using that. We've got several people, both local, international. We got some signed artists that are wanting to be a part of this too. So this is really neat. So make sure you send in your stuff. And
you got this from I remember the Power Pirates.
Yeah,
you were
Power Pirates.
So impressed with.
Are we going to play them today,
Do
Lola?
we have the Power Pirates anywhere?
I don't know.
We'll find them.
Don't throw. Jordan, don't throw this stuff at me like this.
During the next break, I
By
will
the way,
find them.
Kinsey has missed you terribly. She's anxious for you to come home, but she's had a wonderful time while you were gone.
Now, see, if only a real live woman would call in and say that it's missed me, and not my dog.
Uh-huh. But dogs love unconditionally, Jordan. That's what's nice, you see.
At least you have a relationship.
Yeah, there you go. At least it's with something animate.
Happy New Year.
Thanks.
All right.
What was the name of that? Power
Pirates, right?
Power-pirate, and I believe it's .net.
I'll find it. We've got the link at our website somewhere.
Okay.
So,
that's
right.
the group I like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
it
okay.
is.
Okay.
They're the ones you said you wanted to start the year off with. Well,
Damn, why didn't you call me yesterday?
Why didn't you mention it before the
I could have had
show?
it all set.
And it would have been. See how he is.
I know.
Gosh.
it happened.
All right.
All right, well, I
he'll
will
get
let
roughed
you
up by
guys
the police.
Yeah.
have a good show.
Don't enjoy the pat down too much.
It's always in the
It's the highlight of his day.
Yeah, I know it.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
Bye, Jordan. Drive
Bye-bye.
safe when you get here.
Yeah, see, that's always my favorite. I go get in security line just for that. You know?
It's Saturday night. Where's Lola?
Yeah, waiting at the airport. Well,
Wow.
we have our guest on if you're ready to go.
All right, sure. Well, Stephen Bassett's a leading advocate in the nation for ending the 61-year government-imposed truth embargo regarding extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. He leads XPAC, the extraterrestrial. Why can I not say that name today? It's a new year. I can't talk. Extraterrestrial Phenomenon Political Action Committee and the Facts on Washington. Million Facts on Washington. Stephen, you with us?
Sure, I'm with you. It's a dilemma, isn't it?
I tell you what. New year. It's been 2 weeks off. I can't talk.
Well, extraterrestrial is a brutal word.
It is. I'm going to call them ET from now on.
It's hard to spell. And alien it just comes right off the tongue, but alien has a pretty negative connotation to it, and gets confused with immigration.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a confusing topic when you start going that way.
ET, on the other hand, most people know what you mean when you say ET, and of course that refers to the movie ET, which is the good extraterrestrial. So it's kind of a softer approach, and so I tend to use ET when I can.
Okay, well, I will use ET from now on because I can't say the other word. So how's everything been? I think the last time we talked to you was in May of last year, if I remember correctly.
Yes, last year.
Last year, what a year!
About last year yet? I mean, have we written it off? Didn't I read a while ago that there was some new drug they're working on in the military, I think, or the intelligence community was working on. It can actually erase your memories.
I would sign up because last year was a crazy year. I didn't like it.
Not good. We got hosed pretty well here in the lower 48, and it's going to take some time to recover. But not surprisingly, people's interest turned to survival. I mean, I've got friends upside down in condos and lost their jobs and out of work. People lost their house, their home, whatever. There's a lot of that going around. And people turned to survival, and the president got immersed in just a quagmire of what we'll call fires, putting out fires. This was pretty much handed to him.
Well, and the thing I never understood about it was, we go in, he starts the new year, he, talking about, the biggest concern, of course, you got the war, and you have the economy, and we decide to go with health care. And, which isn't, your concern. I mean, I know you're, looking at the disclosure and everything, but it still seems a weird thing, let's go, let's take, box number 3, go to health care, which I think would ruin the economy, but, that's me. But, trying to fix that when we need to fix the other 2 things first, sure,
Well, to refresh your audience's memory, throughout 2008, there was a really strong sense that something big was coming. We had made great progress in introducing the UFO ET issue into the mainstream media, deeper into it, bringing it into the political process, connecting candidates to the issue, and so forth. We expanded the Exopolitics World Network, and a number of activists made great progress. Jeff Peckman made some great progress in Denver. He's got that ballot initiative down now. So there's a lot of things happening, and Obama, I felt, was set to be the disclosure president. There were a lot of indications pointing to this, having to do with people like John Podesta and Bill Richardson and the Clintons and the Rockefeller Initiative and a whole bunch of stuff that we keep track of, we the advocates, but the general public doesn't. But we've got it up on the Internet at various websites like presidentialufo.com, Grant Cameron's site, my site, paradigmresearchgroup.org, BarackObamaUFO.com, Hillary ClintonUFO.com. This stuff was up there and ready to rock. And I geared up the facts on Washington in mid-2008 and had that ready to go on the day after the election. But history threw us a curveball in late October when Lehman Brothers, that fine, upstanding investment firm in New York, decided to go belly up and trigger the worst financial crisis since the Depression. I happen to believe that was intentional. I happen to believe that they deliberately went under at that point, under directions from higher authorities, you might say.
Well, now, which higher authorities would that be?
Probably somebody connected to the Republican Party.
Uh-huh.
Because the formula, what they were looking at was pretty straightforward. If they had waited a few more months, tread water, as it were, and gone belly up during the new Democratic administration, because it was pretty clear by mid-October, I can assure you, that the Democrats were going to win that election. I mean, regardless of what you hear on the television, the insiders knew exactly what the numbers were. And if they had waited and gone under during the Democratic administration, there was a good chance they might have gone to jail. And this bailout we're looking at now would have been nothing like what we're seeing. So essentially what happened was, I believe, that they said, look, go belly up now, and you won't go to jail, and we'll just crank up the Treasury and start pouring billions of dollars into Wall Street, banks, investment firms, everything, bailing out everybody. You'll have to take a hit, but believe me, you'll be fine. And that's exactly what happened. Before Obama even saw the White House, between that third week of October and January 20, that bailout was completely underway. And he was almost in a corner when he walked in the door. Now, I think he should have made some changes. I don't think he should have gone along with it in the way he did. Nevertheless, hundreds of billions of dollars were already out the door before he showed up. And it was the biggest payoff, the biggest heist in our history, and maybe in any nation's history, since the price tag may eventually come into several $1 trillion. So this was hardball. This was major political maneuvering. This was basically the Republicans, burning down the House, taking all the money, taking the car, the cat, the dog as they went out the door, and just saying, "Fine, you can have the United States. We're done with it." So Obama comes in faced with this massive economic crisis, and everybody goes into survival mode. But he had other problems. And then as the months went on, the partisanship got worse. He really couldn't deal with the Iraq and Afghanistan war in a decisive way. And we end up going through a full year in which, by and large, Obama probably, how would you say, continued more of Bush's policies than he, abrogated.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and you keep on saying change and hope, and I'm still waiting for the change and the hope. I don't think I'm hoping. I mean, I guess you're hoping for the hope, but it doesn't seem like it's much of a change. It's just gotten worse.
That's correct. Though there were things that were going on. There were some new things happening. But the upshot is that the prospect of disclosure, which seems so good in the fall of 2008, evaporated at least for 2009. Then they did make a decision to take on health care. It was a big mistake. They should have put it off. It was not the time to do it. Nevertheless, that really set some fires going, and so this was a very tough year for everybody, and disclosure didn't take place. I mean, that's the background here. However, one thing, there was plenty happening with respect to the UFO ET issue. That didn't go anywhere, and a lot of that was quite favorable. It just didn't directly involve it didn't involve the administration too much. But I want to point out one thing, and that is that it's notable, and you wouldn't know this unless you really were paying attention, because this was not something that was covered by the press much. This was in the background. It just wasn't a page one story. But Obama ran very much on this concept of open, transparent government. And that's a non-trivial matter. And obviously, open, transparent government has a huge implication for finally disclosing the reality of the ET presence and opening up that major vault, as it were, of documents, information, and implications. But
at the same time, when you say, there's a certain degree where you have to stop being transparent. I mean, if you were completely transparent, there'd be all kinds of, especially in this kind of a climate where, what was it last week where we had all of a sudden all this terrorist stuff starts coming up around again, right over the holidays. Mm-hmm. At some point you got to hold some cards to your chest while at the same time you're showing other cards.
He hasn't been transparent yet.
He hasn't been transparent at all, but at the same time, how transparent can you be?
Well, 2 points, though.
Sure.
You're right. And I think most Americans know and understand that open transparency does not mean 100% openness and transparency. It really means a significant shift in that direction. They understand that. And by and large, no. There has been some changes in the transparency issue. Again, it's not something you would know. But the point I'm trying to make is, throughout all this tumult of the last 12 months, the open transparency issue was still being pursued by his administration. It was always going on in the background. He never really backed away from it. It wasn't really a major political issue. In other words, this was not under attack. It wasn't being debated by the pundits on all the talk shows. There was no screaming matches about it. So he just quietly pursued it. And so if you read back through the news for 2009, you starting with the memorandums he signed on day one, January 21, when he signed a memorandum calling for the agencies to become open and transparent, more open and transparent. He called a memorandum calling for a reform of the Freedom of Information Act, which is completely skewed toward the government. And then he actually signed an immediate directive calling for the reverse of George Bush's restrictions that he imposed when he came into office almost immediately on the Presidential Records Act, limiting our access to those. And we believe there's some important UFO-ET records in those presidential records if we can get to them. Starting with that and going through the rest of the year, every few months something would come up. The most recent is that he announced that they're creating this office devoted specifically, executive office specifically to accelerating the pace of declassification of documents, with millions of documents slated to be brought out. This actually follows directly in line with what Podesta was asked to do in 1993 by Bill Clinton. John Podesta, his former aide and chief of staff, was ordered to come up with some reforms to the classification process and get millions of documents out, which is what he did. What most people don't know is that simultaneous with that, there was an initiative underway, an engagement of the administration by Lawrence Rockefeller to specifically bring out all the UFO documents and essentially end the truth embargo. What Podesta was asked to do was somewhat a response to that, but without the UFO connection. Now, Podesta has continued to push the open, transparent government issue as the head of the Center for American Progress, which is backed by George Soros. That's the major funder to the Center for American Progress, and George Soros' number one issue, open, transparent government around the world. And so he's following in those footsteps there, and that office was just announced. You can find out. You can go to the whitehouse.gov website and learn about it. So in the background, they have continued to build this platform of open transparency. Have they been able to implement it directly with respect to the operations of the executive branch and the agencies? Only to a limited extent. Now,
this office that was created, I know you have the Freedom of Information Act that you can that John Greenwald has always used for forever, it seems like. Mm-hmm. To get documents you send in, they'll send you documents back. Is this replace that, or does this kind of enhance that?
No, it enhances it. It's an add-on. It's another tool. And it's,
so now, can you go and say, I want all your documents on this, and they will process that for you, or?
Well, I think, look, you have to go in there to get some of the details, but essentially,
sure.
It's an inside-out deal. The FOIA is outside in. In other words, you have to file something. You have to come up with a filing looking for specific information. You've got to follow certain rules. You then submit it, and the government then responds as it sees fit. If you don't like the response, you take them to court, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
This is inside out. This is being set up to accelerate and start getting documents out. In fact, one of the mandates of this particular office is that no documents will be classified forever. Again, a lot of this is show. A lot of this is posturing. In other words, what the administration, I believe, is doing, because I believe that disclosure is still in the works, and the Obama administration is still very likely to be the disclosure administration sooner than later, unless another country intervenes, is to build this platform in which the administration is postured towards exactly what disclosure represents. In other words, it not only enhances it enhances the public relations benefits from it, but it's also setting the stage. Just like all this stuff coming out now about water on Mars, water on the moon, possible life again on Mars, all of this stuff is being put out there as the scientific community, particularly the government-related scientific community, starts to prepare itself to lay the platform for disclosure. In other words, everyone who wants to be on the right footing, they want to have the right image. They want to be be seen in the proper light as this major event takes place.
Now, I guess to counter that a little bit, what about the British? I mean, last month of the year, all of a sudden they closed down the UFO hotline. What do you think about that?
It's very interesting. We noted that, and again, on the first take. Someone might conclude, oh, well, the British are getting out of the business, or they're backing away, they're repudiating it, et cetera, et cetera. So that just shows that this thing is closing down. On the other hand, but if you know more of the bigger picture, which I do, you get a different take on it. Here's what I believe happened.
Go ahead. Sure.
When you read if you go online, you can easily find it. If you actually read the wording of this, which was put up on the MOD, Ministry of Defense website, it said two things. One, that it again did not. It made the point that the U.S. makes in its standard response. It's a very important point that this phenomenon doesn't pose a threat, and since it doesn't pose a threat, there's no compelling need to investigate it. Now, that's not. I mean, they are investigating it. Those investigations will never stop. Mm-hmm. But neither the MOD or the Department of Defense or the U.S. government has ever said there's no extraterrestrial presence. That would be a big mistake, and they know that. They never say that. It is a non-denial denial. The posture is we no longer investigate, which is not true. But whatever it is, we're no longer investigating. It doesn't pose a threat. This is government speak. This is propaganda. But it's important because if the government repeatedly, because they're getting requests all the time, had to send out statements, thousands, tens of thousands or more, to the general public, stating we don't investigate this phenomenon because there's nothing there. There is no extraterrestrial presence. If there was, we'd know it. If they put those all out, they would have to eat every single one of them, word for word, paper for paper. So they're not going to do that. So they have this. They're playing a game. This is part of the truth embargo. So the MOD puts that out, which is partly a response to the fact that since they've been releasing UFO documents now for several years, generating thousands of news articles in the British press, they've been getting more and more sighting reports. They're pouring in queries, you name it, and it's driving them crazy. And so they can kind of take a little pressure off themselves and maybe cool the jets of the British people by shutting the MOD down. They said they'd do it to save the 70,000 quid. That's pretty funny, but governments have got to say something. Mm-hmm. So essentially, they shut it down. But there's another reason. The real reason I believe that they shut it down was this: the British government, particularly under Gordon Brown, is lockstep with U.S. policy. No other country in the world is more in concordance with U.S. policy on multi-levels than the British government. We know that. Nobody's shocked at that. They're our closest ally. And by shutting the MOD desk down, the UFO desk down, what they're sending a message to the U.S. is, look, stuff is coming out of France, out of Russia, out of China, Denmark, Sweden, whatever, Brazil, Mexico. These countries are releasing their records. There's a lot of talk out there that another nation might disclose other than the U.S., but not us. In other words, this is our message to you. We're not going to preempt your prerogative here. We're not going to disclose ahead of you in case you had any doubts. But the second message, which was embedded in that announcement, which was the most important, was this. They also stated in the same statement on the website that they would still continue to dump out their UFO files onto the Internet, continuing every few months to put out thousands of more files, which will just generate many more articles, and that is going to continue to put pressure on the U.S. and its truth embargo. And so what the UK is really saying by that act is, we're not going to disclose first, but we want you to get on with it, right? Get this out of the way. We want that tech.
All right, well, we need to go ahead and take a break. Stephen, it's been fascinating so far. You're listening to Whispers Radio on WKKX and UPRN. We'll be right back after this break. So this is the Power Pirates, right? Power Pirate.
Power Pirate.
Power Pirate. Yeah, that's, we were looking for it, and we're like, why is it not coming up as Power Pirates? That's because it's one pirate.
Actually, it's power. 3 very young kids.
It is. And they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're what, from the Washington area?
Washington, D.C., I think.
They're amazing. I think Jordan is like their biggest fan at this point.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I enjoy them.
Anyway,
we're back with Stephen.
Hey, Stephen, you with us still?
Oh, yeah.
Great. And, we were talking about, I think, before the break about the British coming out, taking away their hotline. Now, coming back, across the pond, I guess, you have your Million Facts on Washington. I'm looking here at the website now, factsonwashington.org. It says it's in phase 3, the media. Now, when we talked to you in May, you had said that, I think we kind of ribbed you a little bit about the statement, or else, Obama, release your, or disclose or else, and, and nothing really, they haven't disclosed yet, of course. Of course, a lot of stuff's happened since May. A lot of stuff. Now, this phase here is on the media, however, and you started going after the
June
press,
1st.
Yeah, the June 1st, the press corps. I was trying to think of the press corps. I know we've seen one time I've seen something in the media talking about UFO disclosure. Not much else. I mean, if it's anything at all, it was a little here and there. What kind of success do you think that's had?
Well, first, let me be clear. I never used the phrase "or else."
I can't remember what the phrase was.
Yeah, I never used the phrase "or else." I basically was saying he needs to do it. He needs to do it because if he doesn't, he's going to own the embargo.
Sure. Just
like he's starting to own the Afghanistan war now, and he needs to do it because another nation may preempt him. And what we did is that when disclosure didn't take place is when we launched Facts on Washington Phase 3. But the key component of the Facts on Washington Phase 3 is we're now aggressively putting out into the media this connection between the issue and his Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, right? His CIA director Leon Panetta, the head of his transition team John Podesta, Bill Richardson, who's still a major player in the Democratic Party. We're really now putting them on the spot. And while in the mainstream media disclosure doesn't come up much, on the Internet it's all over the place.
Uh-huh.
And the Internet is where media is going. The future of journalism is in major operations like the Examiner, which is a direct citizen journalism operation, as well as and blogs.
And they talk about a lot. The Examiner talks about a lot, and that was some excellent articles all the time about disclosure, UFO, anything you want to read about, they're out there.
Yeah, disclosure is all over the Internet, which is where media is heading. In fact, if you Google exopolitics singular, Google exopolitics singular, you get over 1 million page returns now. And there's only one use of that term in the English language. It has no other use but the UFO ET issue. So that's a million relevant pages. If you Yahoo search exopolitics plural, you get over 1 million page returns, and disclosures all over the place as well. So, but as we stated before, this last year was not good, and the ability to drive this issue into the media and start connecting the dots was restricted dramatically by the events of this year. But those are in the past now, and we're in 2010, and the Facts on Washington Phase 3 goes on. In fact, an international press release will be going out tomorrow on this. 8,000 radio stations, television stations, and newspapers about the fact that the Facts on Washington is still happening. We're referring to the fact that reporters have tried to contact them, including Billy Cox of the Sarasota Herald-Tribune, and ask them about this correspondence. What's going on down there at the White House Correspondents Association? They won't even answer their queries. When Robert Gibbs, the press secretary, a couple months ago, was asking about this correspondence on C-SPAN, he didn't answer it. He couldn't answer it. And the reason is we got him pinned down. And they know that if they even acknowledge they're getting this correspondence, the next question will be, well, can we see it? Right? And then the next question after that is, well, what is your response to these questions these people are asking for? And then they've got to start coming up with answers. And I can tell you, they have no answers. There's nowhere for them to go. And so we have them kind of pinned in a corner. And if we continue to drive letters, faxes, and emails into the White House Correspondents Association, somebody's going to break ranks at some point. It's only a matter of time. So we're going to be pushing it very hard. Press releases going out, open letter. I'm doing probably 30 radio interviews this month alone.
Wow.
We haven't gone away. This issue hasn't gone away, and we still think we can crack this open using the media. It's not the only way. And again, another country could disclose at any time. But let's also mention that in 2009, a lot happened. Let me just quickly give your listeners a quick rundown, just the things that happened in 2009 pushing this issue. On February the 5th, a scientist, a guy named Dr. Boss, who is from the Carnegie Institute of Science, presented at the American Association for the Advancement of Science in Chicago, and reported that based upon their present assessment of the extrasolar planet research, that the number of Earth-like planets in the galaxy now could easily be as high as billions. All right. Now this is cool, because for years the idiot skeptics and debunkers were basing some of their arguments against the UFO ET evidence, which is massive, and that the life in the universe has got to be rare. There was even a book in 2003 called Rare Earth. Guys like Shermer seized on it. See, it's very rare. Even if there's life out there, it's very rare. They wouldn't be coming here. Well, most people understood that was ridiculous, and of course now science has come around, and so now the number of Earth-like planets in the galaxy, billions. In January, Denmark started releasing its files. In March, the UK released more of its files. Then Sweden released 60,000 files in May, Uruguay in June, and then the Russian Navy indicated it was going to release files pertaining to its underwater incidents. This is when the Russian Navy and their submarines have encountered submerged objects moving at 200 miles an hour, or groups of objects trailing their submarines and then leaving the water and flying away. This is a significant event which has gotten much coverage. Then, of course, on April 20th, the Press Club is when Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo 14 astronaut, for the first time called for the Obama administration, and he's just 2 blocks from the White House, called for the Obama administration to end the truth embargo. We had major sightings in China over cities like Shandong, Peking, and Changsha, and then the big eclipse on July the 22nd, where a UFO turned up, a couple of them. And they were seen from the ground. They were photographed from the ground. That made some news. But then, on September the 7th, a news article emerged out of China that their Purple Mountain Observatory, a major national observatory in China, a government observatory, actually filmed this UFO for 40 minutes, and they'd be, quote, examining it. This is an article that would never have been released, and that news would never have been announced if the Communist Party didn't want it announced. So that was a message from China that they're looking at this, and they may decide to disclose. This was a very, very interesting moment.
See, I think China is going to be the first. If I put money on it, if I was a betting man, I would put China as one of the first, or Brazil.
China's definitely a candidate, no question about it. And we had the Vatican quite active. In March, in an interview with the Vatican newspaper L'Osservatore Romano, their head astronomer, Gabriel Funes, basically repeats what Corrado Balducci had been saying throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, that the Catholic Church is quite fine with the idea of extraterrestrial life, and that extraterrestrials be viewed as not just extraterrestrial life, but intelligent extraterrestrial life would be viewed as brothers and sisters under God. This was not an accident. This was the Catholic Church continuing to establish its position on this issue. He then repeated that in another interview to the Catholic News Agency in September, and then in the first week of November last year, the Catholic Church holds a 5-day astrobiology symposium, bringing in scientists to discuss extraterrestrial life. That's heavy stuff. That's the Catholic Church, leader of 1 billion human beings, religious leader of 1 human beings, positioning itself on this issue further. The message couldn't be clearer. So this is just a taste of what was going on, and in general, the issue got even greater internet exposure, more articles, more websites, more blogs, more everything, and so it is all over the internet. So it was a very strong year in that regard, but not with respect to the administration's ability to act.
Now, Stephen, I had a question for you. As a country starts to disclose information, where do y'all see the world standing on this? How do you see the regular public, you and me kind of people, reacting to it all?
I think the reaction is fairly predictable. I think, well, first of all, disclosure will start very likely with a single country, not with multiple countries. It could be the UN, but I doubt it. There are reasons for that. If the country is a major country like France, Russia, China, United States, other countries will follow suit almost immediately. The public's initial response will be one of great excitement, huge enthusiasm, huge curiosity, and the news media will go crazy. The news media has been contained on this issue, though less so in the last 8-9 years. But overall, the coverage of the issue has been a fraction of what it would normally merit if it was not embargoed. And just give you perspective on this. Last year, I logged in about 1,000 articles on the UFO subject in the English language press worldwide. That's not all the articles, because a lot of them are duplicated many times over. So the number of articles is probably a couple of thousand. That's a lot, believe me. And more than enough to, if you go through these articles, and you can find them at the Paradigm Research Group website in the media archive, you go start reading these articles, and you go, wait a minute, the media is kind of covering this. Why isn't this even bigger than it is? To give it in perspective, recently a famous golfer named Tiger Woods had a bad night and ran over a fire hydrant. The last count, that had generated somewhere between 50 and 75,000 stories.
Yeah, but that's because 50,000 of those stories are women coming out with their stories.
Yeah, and 400,000 women bloggers basically sharpening their knives.
Yes.
But that just points out that when the media jumps on something, believe me, the amass of coverage that could occur and exposure is almost uncalculable. And so once this issue is given the imprimatur of a major government, once it's acknowledged it's real, the media will go nuts. And so you will have hundreds of thousands of stories in radio, television, and print, literally pouring forward in the weeks and months following this. So people will learn an enormous amount in a short amount of time. They'll be glued to their television sets without question, kind of like we were during the Kennedy assassination or the Cuban Missile Crisis. Only this is going to be a lot more exciting, frankly, and perhaps a lot more positive. So we have the ability for people to get a great deal of information very quickly. That will tend to mitigate what we'll call fear from manifesting itself too much.
Now, do you think there will be, I mean, some people are going to think, oh, well, there's going to be suicides, there's going to be people, well, I mean, you know what I'm saying, people scared after death and can't handle, and then you hear that from people all the time.
That's propaganda.
Of course.
It's been part of the truth embargo from the beginning, scaring people, particularly people inside government, that, oh my God, don't go to the New York Times, don't tell your mother, don't write a journal, keep quiet, because everybody will panic. It's all propaganda.
People lose their religion. Yeah.
You know what I think? If a sighting, say the news actually would capture an ET speaking, or, I think that would cause mass panic. But just the release of information and finally getting to know that it is true that there are, there have been sightings and all of the things that, affiliated with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. It would be a matter of excitement. People would then welcome this. But if just, like in V, where, these huge ships just park themselves over the major cities, I can see panic ensuing from that.
Here's a good analogy. You're a parent, right?
Yeah.
And your 16-year-old comes to you and says, "Mom, I wrecked the car, and I think I broke. Calls you. I wrecked the car. I broke my leg. Come on down to the hospital." I mean, you're going to be concerned, right? You're going to be a little upset, and you'll go to the hospital. If your kid calls you up and says, "Mom, something really terrible is happening, but I can't tell you what it is, and I can't tell you where I am, and I don't know when I'm coming home," then you panic.
Yes.
Truth embargoes, it generates fear. Truth is the remedy.
Yeah.
The
right.
more you know about something, the more you're going to be calmed about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go out and read about it and learn more, and I get you there. And it makes me feel like that they think we're little kids.
Well, they do.
Well, I know, of course they do. But I mean, it's just,
irritating.
I think it is irritating. I think it's time that they think we, let's grow up. It's a new year.
Mm-hmm.
New decade. It's time. But
and let me add this: once this the and it will come out because it's already well established on the internet. Millions of people are aware of this issue, and many of them are on the net. Once it emerges that, well, we've been kind of working on some ET tech, ET-related physics based upon crashed vehicles that we've had in our possession for decades. And, there could be some breakthroughs here which could really change the picture, right? Maybe drop your energy costs by 50, 60, 70, 80%.
Well, what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, there's two fundamental techs that we're interested in. One is the propulsion of the craft, which we know is antigravitic, and the other is the energy, which we know is pretty good. And the question is, how much progress have they made? Well, we're certain that they've created a version of antigravitic flight because we've got video of craft flying over our own bases and landing. And look, antigravitic is simple. If you can make a basketball hang in the air, whatever you're doing, it's antigravitic. All right. And so those saucers are antigravitic. They're not up there based on air pressure. They're not aerodynamically flying. They're antigravitically flying. So we're almost certain they've done that. How far they've gone with the energy, we don't know, but we know their budget's pretty big, and we know they have unlimited facilities, many of which are underground, to study it at will, and they have for decades. And look, humans with a lot of money and time are pretty clever. We went to the moon, didn't we? We've invented and created massive technology of all kinds. So with that budget in 40 or 50 years, have they made progress on that energy? I think they have. If they want to come forward and say, yeah, we had ET craft, we studied the energy system, we're really sorry, but we can't make them work for us, fine, they can do that. We'd say, oh, okay, fine.
I think if you open it up, there's going to be somebody out there that can figure it out. There's some smart people out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's a world-changing physics there, that could solve our energy problems, our carbon footprint problems, our environmental problems, feed lots of people, maybe reduce the risk of terrorism, and improve this planet dramatically and in a short amount of time. And it's been examined for years by a limited number of government scientists. But there's 6 billion people out here, many of which are pretty darn smart. One would make the case, well, why don't we get some of those people looking at this? Why don't we bring this out and have it examined and dealt with by a much larger pool of brilliant scientists? This is not rocket science here. But as long as it's stuck in a truth embargo, buried under the ground, well, it's just limited to a finite group. More importantly, we know the emphasis on that group is probably going to be towards weaponology, at least initially. So we don't get the benefits of the physics, but we may get the weapons someday, and they may be able to blow up whole continents. Oh, that's great. So, look, the truth embargo is all bad now. I mean, it had its benefits during the early parts of the Cold War. I understand why bringing that out during the Cold War was a pretty risky proposition, though I can make a case they should have. But that's 18 years ago, and we're in a world of hurt here. We got so many people that are suffering globally. The amount of disease, starvation, hunger, and impoverished conditions is such that, as you probably have heard many times, about 25,000 kids under 16 die every day.
Now, I got a quick question for you. You said you had the video of this, correct?
Video of what?
Of the anti-gravitic device or crafts?
If you search the net, if you search the evidentiary base on the net, you can find some of the videos that were taken over Nellis, over Area 51, that show these craft operating. So they're actually out there. I think do a YouTube search and you can find them.
Okay.
We've also got firsthand testimony of people that have been inside government and said they've seen them flying. So I don't think there's much doubt that they have mastered some version of anti-gravitic drive. Pretty cool deal.
Now, we've only got 2 minutes left. I have one more question for you. I know you're, I think, what did I say, phase 3 earlier of your, okay. What's phase 4?
There's no phase 4.
No phase 4?
Phase 3 is it. We will pound the White House Correspondents Association with correspondence, and we need all your listeners to do this. Go to faxonwashington.org. The directions are pretty straightforward. Fire off a couple of paragraphs, recommend some questions. Try to send a fax, an email, and a letter if you can to the White House Correspondents Association.
Okay, now, do you have anything else coming up in the new year for people to keep an eye out for?
We're hoping the X conference is still possible. I have managed to get the hotel paid off from last year. We're working on some speakers now.
I've had a lot of people on here that have been speakers, and they said it's one of the best ones. So
yeah, I'm hoping that it'll still happen. I still have a few hurdles to cross. Hopefully within a couple of weeks I'll know. We still need a little more funding, about 4 or 5 more thousand, and I know for sure I could do it. But we have jumped over a major hurdle, and I'm looking to try to get it done. So with any luck, we will have an X conference 2010.
All right, very good.
All right.
Well, nice speaking with you. Of course, I'm going to keep in touch. Hopefully, 2010 will be the year.
Don't you love that? I love the way 2010 just falls off the tongue. Don't you love it?
And we're back into another Arthur C. Clarke novel too. So we were in 2001. Now we're in 2010.
Great, man. Let this be the year, okay?
I hope
2010 is it, man. And then we can party for 2 years, and then we all have to die, of course, in 2012.
Well, at least we'll know for 2 years that there were aliens.
That's true.
Before, and well.
What a happy thought.
Cover is over.
All right, it was nice talking with you, Stephen, and we will be in touch. You know my email. If anything pops up, let me know. So talk to you then.
My pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye. Actually, he was saying that there is a. Give me 1 second here. I cannot remember that date. Somebody sent me an email about another date. There we go. May 11th, 2011. Have you heard of that date yet?
No, but I'm going with June 10th, 2010.
What's June? What is happening that day? You're just going to.
That's it. That's the day.
It does seem like I'll raise you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody go?
3rd,
yeah. Of 2013.
You know what? I'm going to do the Ides of March.
All righty.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but it's Judgment Day. I wish I could find that news article. Where in the world was that? In any case, they're saying that they took the Bible and some numbers and some stuff, and
I can do that too.
And yeah, me too. But it's like May 11th, 21st. I don't.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll be right
everybody.
back, people. Davey KKX, UPRN.
We'll be back.
And now back to Whispers, brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours.
This is like my clubbing days.
We need to turn the lights off and get like a
disco ball
or like a strobe light would be even better.
I haven't been danced on a bar in a long time.
You still got your go-go boots?
Oh, there were little white ones too. Well, we're back, everybody.
Yes, I did. We were talking during the break. Welcome back to Whispers, AM 1600 WKK. I suck at this job. And UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I just like to sit over there, get my facts together. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
I know. I should get paid more for this. I should.
Now these aren't.
Who is this now?
Who else?
Jordan? Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
Jordan, did you get arrested yet?
Is this your phone call?
Now they've got
Do
me
you-
in a room.
Wait 1 second here.
Are you
turn up
naked?
the music for a second.
Oh.
See what we found?
Can we make your incarceration a little bit better?
It did.
Good. I'm glad. Are you naked?
They've got me naked in a room. There's 3 men that keep hitting me.
3
I know
men, not women? Oh, I'm sorry, Jordan. I specifically asked for you to have matrons.
I know. This
I
is a
think they
dream
got
dream
mixed
for
up.
Nick.
They are wearing gloves, though,
One of Nick's
right?
dreams, but it's hurting.
Oh, my poor Jordan.
I know, right?
Aw.
No, there's like nobody here.
Really?
Okay.
Oh.
Sitting, like,
Nobody
no
wants to
line.
leave Myrtle Beach.
Nobody wants
That's-
to leave.
that
Myrtle Beach. In
surprises
my
me.
case, there's probably 10 people sitting here.
They probably left this weekend. Everybody's got to work on Monday.
Yell out into the audience. Hi, say hi to Whispers Radio. Let's see if anything
Is
get
are
arrested.
you on time? Is your flight
Yeah.
still on time?
That'll
Well,
change.
so far we're supposed to leave this. I think we're supposed to start boarding at like 1:45.
Well, I only ask because you could have a plane coming in, and there has been some really nasty weather in the middle of the country. So, who knows whether, who was I talking? Oh, my son. When he flew back from Vegas, their plane that they had to get on was running an hour and a half late because it was delayed somewhere else. So by the time they got in and they, unloaded and cleaned it up and all that kind of stuff, he was like 2 hours, at least 2 hours delayed.
Oh man, I hope my next flight because there's no
Next?
direct flight from Pittsburgh to Myrtle Beach.
Where are you flying
they're
into?
all-
Charlotte, I'm guessing,
We're
right?
going into Charlotte.
Yeah.
I came in through Philly. I'm leaving through Charlotte.
Philly.
Let me tell you what, I'm a traveling man.
I guess so. Well, at least you didn't have a problem with security.
Yet.
Well, no.
He's
Well,
got to go to Charlotte.
yeah, but he doesn't have to go through security there
Oh,
as long
they'll
as he
make him.
doesn't change. Are you changing plane? Well, you don't smoke, so you don't have to worry about getting outside somewhere to smoke.
Oh no, I just get off and go right to.
Yeah. You do have to change planes, though?
Yeah, I'll have to change flights.
It just reminded
But,
me for some reason of that of airplane smoking or non-smoking, and then they hand in the envelope and it's smoking. Sorry.
Now, I do have a question for you guys.
Sure.
What's
Since
that?
it is the new year and this is the first show of the new year, predictions. Do we got any predictions? Did you already talk about predictions?
No predictions yet. Even though, just so you know, we have a new date for the end of the world.
Oh, really?
May 21st, 2011.
Jeez, they keep cutting it back.
Yeah,
We're-
we got a cut rate.
Is that your prediction then, that the world's going to end in May?
Well, actually, we're all just like rolling
well,
the
Lola's
dice
going to June 10th.
of 2010.
this year.
Yeah.
But this one here, Harold Camping lets out a hearty chuckle when he considers the people who believe the world will end in 2012. I'm just going to leave it at that sentence.
Man,
He's like, those people that think they have an extra year.
Yeah.
But okay, we
wish they'd
don't
figure
have
it out
much
so I
time.
knew when to plan Christmas.
Yeah, we'll get your prediction. Do you have any predictions? Give me your top prediction, Jordan. Then we got to go to our guest.
My top prediction is
Yes.
that this year, Whispers Radio is going to get a paycheck.
Okay, well,
I,
That's more than a prediction. That's a wish and a prayer.
yeah, I was gonna say, you know what? You're gonna bring your silly predictions here. You know what? Just hang up on it.
well, I was going to go with Angelina Jolie was going to adopt another baby. But,
Not adopt another
She's
baby.
birthing another one.
oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, there goes
Brangelina's
that.
reproducing again. It's like a
Well, as long as-
toxic gene pool. It never ends.
They're very pretty people, though. You can't blame them.
That's
Yeah.
true. Well, see, and somebody said, who would you want if you could have anybody for your dad? Who would you want? And I said, her dad, which is, what's his name?
John Voight.
Yeah.
He's a
And
great-
everybody looked at me and I said, because then there was a shot I'd turn out like Angelina Jolie.
There you go.
You know, see?
Yeah.
I think Jennifer Garner is going to start adopting, but let's go.
Jennifer Garner, she's so off the radar all of a sudden.
Well, if she starts adopting,
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Now it's to get back on the radar. I get you.
yeah.
Well,
Either
you
that
got
or a
any-
surrogate, and we can have another scandal here in the Ohio Valley.
There we go.
Oh, number one prediction, real quick before I gotta go.
What? Mine?
Prediction for the year, yeah.
Oh. I don't have a prediction. I didn't even think about this. I have to give this some thought. I will share it with you on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, next week I want to hear a prediction.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
You
I'll
got
think
it.
of some too. So.
All right.
Have a good
Goodbye.
guys.
I
All right,
thought the
be
phone
careful.
got cut
Be
off and he
careful.
just got tackled.
Okay.
Well, I'm thinking that the Cowboys
All right.
actually win a playoff game this year.
No, the Lions. The Lions will win their 5. I bet on them this year to win 5 games and lost my money. So next year they'll win 5 games.
You both of you are silly.
Don't bet money this time, Lola.
I won't. All right, Jordan.
See
You
you later,
listen.
Jordan.
Drive home
Have
safe,
fun on
okay?
the airplane.
See you guys.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, now
All right.
introduce our guest because he had to sit and listen to our idiot banter for
Sorry
a while.
about that,
and
Donald. All right. Well, Donald Ware is the director of the International UFO Congress. He's been studying UFOs since he saw 7 alien vehicles over Washington, D.C. in 1952.
the year I was born.
The year you were born? Great. And he's also he served as the state director and Eastern Regional Director for MUFON. Donald, are you with us? Oh well, and,
I am. Yes.
And I totally left out your service as a in the Air Force as a fighter pilot, correct?
That's correct. I'll give you a brief background.
Yeah,
of
if you
how
don't
I got
mind.
to where I am, if you don't mind. I'm one of the several American directors of the International UFO Congress that was founded by Wendell Stevens and the Brown and Bob Brown. When I was 16 years old, I was walking down the street in Arlington, Virginia, and I looked up and saw those 7 red light type UFOs, and I remember seeing the headlines in the paper the previous Sunday morning about flying saucers over Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, that morning, the same headlines were there, flying saucers over Washington, made them around the world. And that started my truth-seeking path. But then I spent 4 years at Duke University getting a degree in mechanical engineering and 26 years in the Air Force, 10 as a fighter pilot, and got a master's in nuclear engineering and did a lot of other stuff in research and testing, and retired at age 47, didn't have to work for a living.
Oh, nice.
So for 27 years, I've been a pretty full-time truth seeker and birder. I love birds. I fell in love with birds when I was 7.
That's something I've always wanted to get into. I've actually have some binoculars I got over Christmas, so that was what I was looking at the other day. I'm like, I'm going to go get a bird book.
I'm fascinated by everything that flies, and I'm one of the few people who have seen an ivory-billed woodpecker fly across the Choctahatchee River.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, what is this now?
An ivory-billed
Yeah,
woodpecker.
the woodpecker that scientists thought was extinct
Yeah.
for 50 years.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Actually, I'm on the board of the Alabama Ornithological Society, and when the head ornithologist at Auburn, after they discovered one up in Arkansas, assigned his graduate students to search the historic habitats in northwest Florida, where I live in Fort Walton Beach, he went down with them to Choctahatchee River his first time in the river and saw one fly across the river his first day. And I was feeling really guilty because I had not been in the river in a canoe or kayak, and I'd been the bird count coordinator, Choctahatchee Audubon Society, for 20 years. But it took me 4 days in the river in a canoe or kayak before I saw one fly across. And I know now lots, I know 7 people who saw them there in 07.
That's amazing, though.
Anyway, that's a different subject from what I wanted to talk about.
If you haven't noticed, we can get very quickly distracted.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I have been a student of all mysterious things, by the way, and I think March of 07, March of 08, I actually heard a Bigfoot call.
Wow.
I was asked by the state non-game wildlife biologist to help him to assist him in investigating Bigfoot sightings near the Eglin Air Force Base.
Uh-huh.
I live on the south side, but in the next county over and on the north side, there were some series of strange sightings and footprints and all. And I learned over a 4-year investigation that there's been a family of them living up there since 1959 anyway, and they've been making fairly repeated sightings almost each of the last 5 years. So it's kind of interesting what's going on there. Back to UFOs.
Yeah, but we're going to have you on with other things in the future.
I'm going to be a speaker at the next International UFO Congress in Laughlin, Nevada in late February. And my subject will be Sharing Earth, Various Intelligent Species. And let me leave people with a website right now, ufocongress.com.
UFO.
And I'll go ahead and put that on our website
right
now.
Put that on your webpage, because
I
you'll
totally
see a brief write-up on all of our speakers, and one of them in particular that I'm really excited about is Neil Freer, who's going to be our first speaker. He's spoken to our group before on superliminal travel, so he's got some knowledge of that. But he and my friend Scott Jones are speaking on something similar to my subject, in that it kind of talks about, I think, joining a galactic society, which is something that we are in the process of doing right now. I'm really anxious to hear what he says, because I respect both him and Scott Jones very highly. Anyway, I think after 57 years as a truth seeker and considerable assistance from what I call angels, aliens, and the world government folks for the past 21 years, that we share this planet with 5 other species that are eternal spiritual beings. And 2 of those species, or I'll use that term loosely, are genetically designed to be non-technological. And I'm talking about the cetaceans, that is whales and dolphins, and the Bigfoot creatures. In fact, I think the Bigfoot creatures are probably more advanced than most humans from a spiritual perspective. Even though they're non-technological, they're highly telepathic. They're smart enough to know that they've got to stay away from humans if they want to survive, because humans are just soon, if they see something they don't understand, they'll just soon shoot it.
Yep. Don't we do that?
We tend to be afraid of things we don't understand, and that's one of my goals, is to help people understand the larger reality.
Could it
so
be
we can get over the fear? Could
it be too that they have a far superior sensory perception than we do? As far as it's kind of like a dog, or
telepathy is far superior than most of our human senses. Although I know a lot of people who are quite telepathic, but from everything I've studied about Bigfoot creatures, is that they can avoid humans quite easily, because they can pick up information from all the other animals and the birds. Even ravens can telepathically alert Bigfoot to know that there are humans in the forest.
Wow, it's an actual...
Now that's a theory I can get behind.
I hope you folks have seen Avatar.
Yes.
No.
You haven't seen Avatar?
You really need
That's
to
amazing.
see it. That's a very important film. There have been some government agents, high-level agents, probably world government agents, kind of on the set, influencing some major films over the years. The Day the Earth Stood Still was designed to help us get over that shoot first, ask questions later syndrome.
Yeah.
And, that took place on the Washington Grounds monument there, Monument Grounds. And when the United States was looked at as the leader of the world, and when they had the remake of that, they changed the setting to New York Central Park, which is viewed by many as the capital of the world now.
Yeah.
And the message was, you're killing your planet. Stop it. A very important. It's the same message a lot of aliens are giving us. If you've read Jim Sparks' book, The Keepers, that's caused Jim's experiences with the aliens have caused him to dedicate his life to getting us to stop cutting down the rainforest, the lungs of the planet.
Well, I'll tell you, I just the Sci-Fi Channel did like 48 hours of Twilight Zone, and Rod Serling certainly had his finger on the pulse of what the future may have to offer. And so many things that showed up in the 60s that, on his show have come to pass in certain respects.
Right. Have any of your people you've talked to talked about Project Serpo?
I think someone's mentioned it once or twice, but nothing ever really in depth.
Yeah, I'm convinced that the Avatar movie is giving us clues about Serpo.
What is Serpo?
I'm convinced that we did send 12 of our Air Force officers to a Zeta Reticuli planet 38.41 light years away in 1965, and 8 of them came back in 1978. Restricted to living on Air Force bases until they died. The last one died in 2002. And that allowed the Defense Intelligence Agency to leak information into the public domain about that experience. It's something we're all going to learn sooner or later, but it's all there. You seek it and you'll find it. It's on the website, serpo.org.
Serpo.
And there are other things that use that same website, because DI has been doing this for almost 4 years now. And about a year ago, they leaked, I think it's a 27A, the transcript of the full all-day briefing that Bill Casey, head of the CIA, gave to President Reagan, March 81. Every and you got to be kidding me that Reagan said when he was being told about our Air Force officers being taken to another planet in 65, and about the alien presence here now is there. All you got to do is read it. You could read for a week in that website and not finish everything they're telling us. The flying saucer that somebody found buried in an area of Earth that was 150 million years old. It had both alien skeletons and dinosaur skeletons on board. It's there.
And one thing I find interesting,
a lot of good stuff.
You mentioned dolphins and whales. I know those are something that people see every day. What has led y'all to believe that they are extraterrestrial beings?
Well, that they're eternal spiritual beings.
Okay.
Well, I don't know whether you all believe in reincarnation, but nothing's going to make sense until you do. We are eternal spiritual beings, and we're only in these physical bodies for a relatively short period of time. But spirits that have, or souls that have had a lifetime as a whale or dolphin, now sometimes incarnate in a physical human body. And once you get into a lot of past life regressions and stuff, you can pick up those stories. It's kind of interesting. That's just one of the many pieces of evidence.
Now, you're saying like if someone goes into like a past life regression, hypnosis or something, they're recalling being like a dolphin or a whale in the past
correct.
life. Okay.
I have a friend, Scott Jones, who was working for Lawrence Rockefeller, or that is Lawrence Rockefeller was paying for the program for him to go into the water around Bimini, communicating telepathically with the dolphins to get them to lead us to undiscovered underwater archaeological sites.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all the details of that, but I did have dinner with Scott a couple of years ago, and he was with National Geographic Society's camera team in Panama City, Florida, in the aquarium with another young lady who is very highly telepathic, being filmed communicating telepathically with the dolphins.
Wow.
Which is kind of it. Now, I haven't seen that National Geographic film yet, but I think we're going to see that before too long. They wouldn't have spent all that money to tape that stuff.
Now, and on the other side of that, is there, you were talking about Bigfoot also, because, Bigfoot being on land, dolphins in the sea. Has there ever been any evidence of telepathic communication between humans and Bigfoot?
Yeah, my friend Kawani Lapsaritis, the mountain man from Washington State, wrote the book Psychic Sasquatch. He's got another book about to come out, but I highly recommend his book Psychic Sasquatch. And we invited him to speak at the Emerald Coast, Unlimited Horizons of the Emerald Coast last year, March of last year. And he insisted that he stay a few extra days, and because he's heard about that Bigfoot family here. and see if he could make contact with one of those telepathically. And we went down there, and we did spend the night. And he's a dowser. He'd put a spot on the map where he sensed that Bigfoot would contact us.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were both sleeping, about 100 feet apart, he was in a tent, I was out under the stars. I was awakened at 4 o'clock in the morning by a pair of great horned owls calling to each other overhead, and then I was listening to the horned owls around in the swamp, and then I heard this loud descending call coming from the gate of this park that we were locked into. And I know all the sounds of everything that lives here, all the animals and all the birds that live here, and that was unlike anything I've ever heard. He heard it, and he said, yeah, that was Bigfoot, and it came right from the direction of that spot he had shown me on the map. And I think because all the land between us and that call was freshly bulldozed land for a new parking lot, I think he just didn't want to walk across that. Or maybe he didn't want to climb that fence, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, this is a theory that I can get behind. These people that just go out and track and, and they really don't have a good explanation of who these Bigfoot creatures might be and what their purpose is and how they live. But now you introduce this aspect into it, and now I can see how they could stay undetected and how they could escape being caught or shot. And
as a UFO researcher, I find many stories where UFOs and Bigfoot are connected. It's like in Star Wars, Chewbacca.
Yeah.
that idea comes from that research. But I find that the other intelligent species that call this planet home also are interested in, the natural environment, the endangered species. For example, the leftovers from Atlantis. I don't know how much you know about Atlantis, whether you've read Valerie Bonwick's books, The Sea Gods After Atlantis.
I've read a little bit about it, but not much. Nothing really book-size articles and so forth.
This is an important set of 3 books that I highly recommend, and I can give you some contacts there if you want. The only way you can get those books, I think, is directly from the author. The co-author died just in December.
What's the name of the books again?
Of last year. The first book in the series is The Sea Gods After Atlantis. The second one is Teachings of the Sea Gods. And the third one is it's kind of a spiritual self-help book from these more advanced beings. Makes more sense than most any other self-help books I've seen. The other book is called The Training of an Adept: The Ladder Path. But let me give you Valerie Bonwick's phone number. That's the only way I know you can get those.
Okay, we'll get that off of the, or is it okay?
Yeah.
I'll get that either off the air, or was that okay to give? it's
okay to give this over the air.
Okay.
The lady's 78 years old, I think, lives by herself. Her phone number is 604-602-4760. And that's in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay.
And what was her name?
It's an amazing stuff that you can't get on. I don't think you can get it on Amazon. The only way you can get it is through her.
That's Valerie Bonwick, correct?
Valerie Bonwick, yes.
We need to take a quick break.
Okay.
Pay some bills. But when we come back, we'll go out, keep on going with the Atlantis. Talking about those, and also I've counted 3 different people that you've mentioned so far.
Okay.
So that's leaving 2 to 3 more. So we'll get in those after that.
Okay.
After the break. You're listening to Whispers Radio on WKKX and UPRN, UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
And now back to Whispers, brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours.
Power Pirate Night.
I tell you, some driving tunes.
I love them. I think they're great.
Well, welcome back to Whispers. Talking with Donald Ware. If you have any questions, comments, call toll free. I cannot talk tonight. 1-866-514-1600, or locally, or if you just want to pay for it, whatever you want to do. 304. Why are you laughing?
Nothing.
Yeah, some people like to pay stuff. It's 304-214-1600. I guess Jordan called during our last segment, and someone did get arrested for raising their voice.
Well, they hauled them away.
They hauled them away.
I don't
They're
know
arrested.
if she's arrested yet or not, but
Jordan's next.
so no, I told him. I said, "You see, you watch.
You behave yourself.
Don't you be loud or rude, or we'll be bailing you out of the Charlotte airport."
I'm sure
I'm
the
not
airports
bailing
are on
him out.
edge right now too. With,
Oh,
what
yeah.
happened
Oh, yeah.
Christmas Day.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
We don't need Jordan getting upset. It will happen.
Yeah.
But we're going back with Mr. Ware, or Donald Ware, talking about we're sharing the earth with other sentient beings. Donald, you still with us?
Yeah. Let me say the other four, I mentioned two that were non-technological. The other four are ourselves, Homo sapiens sapiens. And we've had the technology to leave this planet fairly easily since, probably 1940s or so. Homo alterius spacialis are our hybrid offspring with upgrades from zeta reticulin genes to give us greater capacity for intellectual growth and spiritual awareness. Then you have the leftovers from Atlantis, the Dagon people, and my understanding is that that some aliens came here and genetically upgraded some of the remainders of dinosaurs before they went extinct 60-some million years ago, and some of them still live on the planet. And
Now,
some
is that
of the flying
the,
saucers we see are theirs, and they're reptilians.
Yeah, I was going to say those would be reptilians.
Right.
So let me see. You got the Dagon people, which are the leftovers from Atlantis.
Yeah.
The reptilians, which are genetically altered dinosaur.
Right.
The hybrid are humans, and then humans.
Right. Just like we were genetically engineered from the Homo erectus, which is the smartest animal that had evolved on the planet.
Now, would you say that when the one race that you were talking about came with and genetically altered the dinosaurs, that we would be perhaps genetically altered by
Homo
the same
erectus.
group?
We're genetically altered primates. That is, we are upgraded from Homo erectus. You know, the scientists have got that record pretty well in the fossil record. But let me tell you a little about the Dagon people, I'll call them.
Okay.
Because what they say in their history, because it's a history of a race of man, is the subtitle of that book. Sea Gods After Atlantis. In all societies, I guess they have a two-party system or something, and one might be more spiritually oriented than the other. Well, the more selfish group had gotten control of the government about 10,500 years ago in Atlantis, and so the more spiritually oriented became the political opposition. And when they made too much trouble, they would be arrested as political prisoners and put to work in the mines. Well, when the earth traumas came and the islands finally went under, you had a fairly large number of these more spiritually oriented part of that society who were working in the mines and not affected by the earth traumas. And those who were running the government at the time, most of them left the planet. A few of them tried to influence human society, which was quite backwards, somewhat barbarian back then, and their technologies really never stuck, but you can see little bits and pieces of that here and there. The Dagon people, they were more telepathic. They could sense the energies of other people, and they just didn't feel comfortable around the barbaric humans on the planet. But they chose to stay here and live separate from the human beings. They started out in caves that only had openings to the oceans so that they wouldn't be bothered by the local population.
Now, how advanced was this group when they were coming out from Atlantis?
Well, they came here by flying saucers.
Now,
so
could it be possible
advanced.
that they were the ones that genetically altered the Homo erectus and the dinosaurs?
No.
Okay.
No. The first Homo erectus that was upgraded sufficiently to have to be considered human, that happened 994,000 years ago. The Atlanteans, most of them left the planet 10,500 years ago, and those that stayed, they were pretty good genetic engineers. They're the ones that crossed their genes with dolphins to make the mer people. Mer people are a genetic cross between the Dagon folks from Atlantis and the dolphins. And they grew. They had the energy sources allowed them to grow underground the fruits and vegetables and things they needed, and they just didn't bring the pests down there. So they have a lot of organic foods there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to use the chemicals we do, and they were more telepathic, so their spiritual evolution progressed much faster than ours did. That's why I like their book on the training of an adept from their perspective, because they're well advanced along that line. And they built 12 domed cities on the bottom of the oceans, and they harvest the seas from the bottom while we harvest the seas from the top. So we're really not competing with them much for resources. And now they realize, since they're telepathic, that there are a number of human beings also becoming quite telepathic that are worthy of communicating with. And Valerie Bonwick is one of those beings that has been communicating with them all her life.
Now, what kind of communication? I mean, what do they talk about, I guess?
You got to read that. That's too big a question.
Well, sure, I understand even starting with that question.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you a few sentences on it.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's more or less like they're communicating the ideas of the universe to some degree, or
Training of an Adept was the last book.
Sure.
That was the thing that Valerie and her husband Jonathan wanted to know, and they were kind of asking the questions that led to these 3 books. So.
Okay, now I guess moving on from them, the other group that always fascinated me and you hear a lot about are the hybrid race. The humans.
Yeah, Homo alteriospatialis. Let me comment briefly on that.
Now, does this also have, before you go into that, any association with Project Serpo to some extent that this was allowed after this exchange of sending the astronauts or so forth?
Yes, Serpo is a Zeta planet.
Uh-huh.
It's the Zeta Reticulans that have this joint project with human beings to develop a more advanced species called Homo alteriospatialis. Homo sapiens sapiens is a suicidal species. That was proven by our world leaders when they wrote the book in 1972, I think it was. It's Club of Rome's book. It's called The Limits to Growth. I don't know, something about the predicament of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
They prove that, by taking all information gathered on our planet and on human society from 1900 to 1970, putting it in a big computer at MIT, and modeling humanity or modeling the planet to the year 2100. 70 years of data, 200 years of modeling, and every parameter by which they measured our society had a peak between 2025 and 2050, except for the death rate, which was asymptotic. And that was and so they asked the computer, it says, what happens if we, implement all these policies to get us to a stable state society? in 1975 if they implemented all those policies. And by the year 2050, the line started to level out. By 2100, we had a stable state society with a quality of life a little bit ahead of what it was 130 years earlier in 1970. So they said, what happens if we wait to the year 2000 to implement all these policies like zero population growth, et cetera? And by 2100, the lines were still going down. The quality of life was below what it was in 1970. So that told these logical thinkers that Homo sapiens is a suicidal species. We are destroying the environment that supports us and all other living things. Of course, the aliens are telling us that now as loud as they can scream, saying, you're killing your planet. You're killing your planet. Stop it.
See, now I don't know that I would use the term suicidal. I would just, we are greedy as a people or as a species. We're very greedy.
As a species, from the world perspective, we were destroying the environment that supports all life. We knew we were doing it, and we
continued to do it. Yeah, I get it.
Knowingly destroying yourself, suicidal.
So you destroy the environment, and we die out with it too. We're dependent on the environment. So interesting things. Well, anyway, my friend Scott Jones developed something. Was given $1 million in 1993, I think, by Lawrence Rockefeller to provide a service for humanity. He established a 501(c) called the Human Potential Foundation, co-founded with Senator Claiborne Pell, very positive service to others person, if you're familiar with Pell Grants.
Yeah.
And once he got it set up, Scott asked Rockefeller, Lawrence, what do you want him to do with it? And he says, I want you to talk the Clinton administration into releasing to the public previously classified information about the alien presence. And Scott was more successful than he realizes, I think, in making that happen. But it was all done covertly. Because of that, we got to see the alien autopsy film. The film is real. All information about it is disinformation. We got to see the live alien film or the alien interview film, but that one dies on camera. So those that saw videos of a live alien on the Encounters TV show didn't have to worry about him because they saw him die. And they got 2 pieces of hardware, pieces of crash saucers, one that Darrell Sims was given, one Linda Howe was given, that were shown to be extraterrestrial, isotopic ratios that were not of this planet. 5 of them, and they put a picture of Homo Alterius Spacialis on the cover of Time magazine. Anybody wants to look that up? Time magazine, 23 June 97, advertising the 50th anniversary of the Roswell crash. The being is not named that's on that cover, but that puts the imprint of our hybrid children in the minds of whoever saw that picture on Time magazine. It's pretty important stuff. When Debbie Tomey, who is Kathy Davis in Bud Hopkins' book Intruders, that's the one CBS made the miniseries of, drew the picture of her hybrid daughter that she was taken on board twice to meet. It's the same species. It's where you look at her drawing of her daughter, age progressed a little bit, and you look at the picture of what's on the cover of Time magazine. It's the same species.
And I'm looking right now at that. Now, what was
23 June 97?
Yeah, I looked that up. What was the name of the person again you just mentioned? I didn't catch that.
Debbie Tomey was what she's been married to several different people. Kathy Davis in the book was her name. But anyway, one of the last things Scott Jones did with the money that Rockefeller gave him was put on a conference in Washington called When Cosmic Cultures Meet. And the proceedings of that book are still available, I think, at headlinebooks.com. And just click the word proceedings on that website, headlinebooks.com. And you can get that. Now, Scott invited Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Carl Sagan, a bunch of UN people to come and speak at that conference titled When Cosmic Cultures Meet. They all turned him down and sent their lawyer, George S. Robinson. And his title of his lecture was Homo Alterius Spacialis, the Interdependence Between Extraterrestrials and Earthkind. What he said, he's the first man to get a PhD in civil law relating to space, by the way. What he said was you can't take any national law into space. You have to figure out what the cosmic or natural laws are, what laws pertain to us out there, to aliens down here, and to human-alien hybrids here, there, and everywhere. Profound statement from a guy with his credentials. He was legal counsel to the National Research Council, assistant legal counsel to the Smithsonian Institute, legal consultant to NASA. Important guy, and he actually wrote a bunch of books. You ought to put George S. Robinson into Amazon.com and see what he wrote. Just look at the titles of the books that guy wrote that are being sold on Amazon.com right now. It's somewhat amazing. But because of what he said here, I'll read you some titles. Living in Outer Space, published in 1976. That was like 11 years after we sent 12 of our Air Force officers there. Mm-hmm. Envoys of Mankind, a Declaration of First Principles for the Governing of Space Societies, 1986. Space Trek and Endless Migration, 1988. Now, these aren't novels. Uh-huh. Astrolaw, Carrying Human Rights into Outer Space, 28 July 05. HDM, that's an online document.
Now, my question about Serpo is, I mean, because I'm looking at their website right now as well, and let's go ahead and we have a caller with a question.
Bill would like to ask you a question, Don.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, you mentioned dolphin people living on the bottom of the ocean. Do they communicate with dolphins, as we know dolphins on the surface of the ocean?
What I said Dagon, what we call Dagon people, leftovers from the Atlantean society that had 12 domed cities on the bottom of the ocean and crossed their genes with dolphins.
What do they look like? I mean,
I don't have a picture of them, but a lot of people, I think they look quite a bit like human beings do. A lot of the Atlanteans, some of the Atlanteans tried to live with human beings. I don't think they looked all that much different. If you've seen drawings of people who have seen mermaids, there are some recent sightings off the coast of Australia, I think.
Are they still there, or was this way in the past?
No, I think they're still there. Yeah.
Okay, so dolphins being as intelligent as they are, as we know them, would they be able to communicate with this species of people?
Telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. However, in my research, I came across one case where some doctor was with Carl Sagan, interacting with some dolphins in a I don't know, it was a pool or a shoreline somewhere, but the dolphin would come up to have his tummy scratched, and so the doctor was asking Carl to scratch his tummy, and he did. He came back a little bit farther away and a little bit farther away, and until Sagan couldn't reach him anymore to tickle his tummy, and he stood up on his tail and said, "More." Now the debate is whether he understood the language enough to, or just knew that got the response that he wanted for people to scratch his tummy. So,
do you believe the Mayans were a people of another world?
I don't know. I haven't been a serious student of the Mayan culture, so I'm not the best one to answer that question.
Or people that built these pyramids, do you think they were aliens?
I think the Pyramid of Cheops has been there, was built when it was on the Nile 52,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. If you've ever been to I've had the pleasure of lying in the sarcophagus of the Pyramid of Cheops with nobody else in the room for 5 minutes.
Yeah, because supposedly the people at the time didn't have the technology to construct those types of buildings,
We had as our speaker at the International UFO Congress the most spiritually oriented archaeologist from Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
His son was lost his life exploring the underground city below that plateau where the Great Pyramids are, that are all underwater. You have to explore them in scuba gear, and that's quite dangerous. That's how his son lost his life. But he studied those things. He has a second-floor apartment that overlooks the pyramids, about probably the closest home to the pyramids.
Yeah.
And I respect his knowledge, and he said that there is a piece of a device in the museum in Cairo that produced a sound that when he put this device on top of one of those blocks and let it generate this sound that allowed people to, it made it almost weightless. They could pick up the block and move it by hand.
Wow.
He said that's how they built the pyramids, with alien technology.
Gee, I believe that the aliens were here many years ago and built all these things around the world. And just like that map, of Antarctica before there even was a coastline, of such.
Right. J.J. Hertog came to the International UFO Congress a while back when he had been invited by the Egyptian archaeologists to go with them when they were exploring the chambers under the Sphinx. And he said they also had an experiment in the hallway going up to the King's Chamber, and they put these sound generators in the little cubby holes going up that hallway on both sides. And when they got the sound generators going at a certain frequency, he said it caused a light show in that hallway going up to the King's Chamber that he said they got on video. It's absolutely fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Yep.
thank you for your call, Bill.
Okay.
And that was a very interesting, because that's one of the things that's always made me curious was how they built the pyramids.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of that. I mean, I've heard of sort of that kind of a device, but I didn't realize that they might actually have it in one of the museums.
I think the guy that built the Coral Castle had something similar.
Yeah, and I was going to say that would,
Right, yeah.
Because he said he used the same technology that the Egyptians used.
Well, when you look at the Inca and the Maya pyramids, too.
Okay, I'm sure a lot of your audience wonder, how that guy knows all the stuff he knows, or he thinks he knows anyway. And let me just say that of all the directors of the International UFO Congress, and I've only missed one of their conferences in the last 19 years, of all the directors, I'm the only one that has sat carefully and listened to every lecture and taken detailed notes. And I then write a synopsis, a 15 to 20-page synopsis of each conference.
Wow.
And so I go over that information that all these speakers, we bring in 30 speakers a year from all over the world, the best we can find. And I absorb more of that information than most anybody else. And pretty soon you start putting it together. And for the past 20 years, I've gotten overt assistance from angels, aliens, and world government folks. So it's really gotten exciting for me. I've had all my questions answered, and if I come up with a new one, I have some alien sources that have agreed to answer any new question I come up with. The only psychic reading I ever had was with the late Ernestine Klein. I told her I was interested in past lives.
Mm-hmm.
So for 30 minutes, she focused on my past lives as she did this artwork for me, and she said that, well, I had one lifetime on the staff of one of the early Egyptian pharaohs.
Huh.
Didn't say when, but one of my job titles in this lifetime was staff officer in the U.S. Air Force. Same line of work generally, and she said a couple thousand years ago, I was a senator for a while in somewhere in the Roman Empire. Didn't say exactly where, but maybe that's a sign why I'm so fascinated in government. And then she said, in my most immediate past lifetime, I was working for Ashtar. So I don't add to my reality information until I get it from 3 apparently independent, credible sources. And so I asked my Zeta friend, Theo, I said, Theo, can you tell me what I was doing in my most immediate past lifetime? And he's answered all of my other questions before that. And for that one, he said, I'm not allowed to give you that information at this time.
All right. Well, I hate to do this,
Wow.
but that's
Wow.
crazy. But I hate to do this, but we got to get going. We only have about a minute left.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for coming on. We'll have to keep in contact because it's very interesting. But thank you again, and we'll keep on bringing some people in from the International UFO Congress that's going to be happening in February, correct?
Yes, in late February. I don't know if it's the 19th or 20th that they start, but go on that UFOcongress.com.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you again.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Bye.
What do you think, Lola?
I'm glad he explained the dolphin thing. When he said mer people.
I know. I saw it in your face, but
I wish I had the time and the resources that some of these people, because all of these questions are things that really nag at you all the time if you give any of this any kind of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And how great it would be to have the time to sit down and really go through information, viable information, not just, suppositions on kind of crackpots' points of view, but like this thing about the pyramids. Now, I didn't know anything about, but boy, would I love to get to Egypt now, go to that museum and see this device. Yeah.
I'd want to use it.
Well, but boy, think of if that, whatever technology.
But now that's the first time I really, kind of heard about it. Why don't we hear about that instead of, millions of slaves grunted hard to bring the...
Because what's more glamorous? What's more acceptable?
Device.
No, it's more acceptable to think that they had slaves and they did, these huge geometric equations to get these rocks up there and all this kind of stuff. Then, because if they said it was an alien device, then they would be admitting that at some point in our history, we didn't come about our knowledge and intellect on our own.
Yeah, and if you change history, where does that leave us now? What else might be different? And it brings up a lot of questions. Maybe one day we'll get the answers, but just got to wait and see, I guess. Maybe the next 2 years.
Maybe I should revise my 2010 and make it 2015. That'll give us a little bit more time.
Give us a little more time.
Yeah.
So.
Come on, Lola. Give us extra couple years.
But yeah, lots of questions out here. We're going
It's
into
a
the new
lot
year.
of. It's a lot of. It was an interest. Yeah. I think Lola might be. Yeah, I think is that Jordan? Is he arrested?
No, he's not arrested.
Well,
He's just worried about his baby.
His baby Kinsey?
No, the show. Okay, we got to go, everybody.
Jordan, calm down. All right, well, it's great to be here.
You can talk to him.
Jordan, are you on?
No, you can pick it up. Yeah.
Hey, he can wait. All right, well,
You're so rude.
I am. All right, well, thank you for being with us, Evan.
Yeah, anytime.
You'll have to come back, and you've been listening to Whispers on AM 1600 WKKX and UPRN, and don't be afraid, only believe.